John Smoltz joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, John?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Let's start with baseball before we get to what you're doing with the Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Who do you think are the Cy Young candidates right now in each? Who would you mean the Cy Young in the American League and the National League right now?
Yeah, the American League's really tough. There's guys being shut down. There's guys that having really good categories, not maybe universally, but Jay Happ's having an unbelievable campaign for the Toronto Blue Jays where they desperately needed it. Zach Britton's going to be in the conversation. I just want for the record, so I'm not biased. Mm-hmm. I've said this throughout my time. I don't think a pitcher should win the MVP, although they have. And I don't think a reliever should win the Cy Young.
Why is that?
Having done both.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Having done both and having experienced success in both, there's individual awards for each category. Now, I know in a rare case, MVP should go to an everyday player. I would make an argument that a reliever can get more of an MVP award than he can a Cy Young. The Cy Young has always gone to a starting pitching. It's never been tied to the team's success. It goes to the pitcher who's had the best year, period. That's what the MVP used to be, but now it somehow has gotten morphed into the success of the team. And for the relievers, I got the Rolaids Relief Award. I know that, there's been instances like Willie Hernandez when my Tigers growing up and won both, and Dennis Eckersley and others have, and Kershaw won the MVP and best pitcher in the planet. I get it. I'm just saying my opinion is I don't think year in and year out that should be part of the process. It's hard. Unless everyday players have not had that unbelievable years, it's hard for a pitcher to supplant an everyday guy that's out there every single time.
So who would be your American League Cy Young Award winner then this year?
Right now, I did this about 4 days ago for the network, and Kluber was actually the favorite. Now, that changes every day. I have this simple, unscientific method that has traced back to the last 15, 16 years of the winners. I have this philosophy that if you take the six categories and you rank all the guys in contention with the Cy Young, only them, the lowest number should win. So if they're first, second, first, third, fourth, in all those categories, the lowest number should put them, because that's dominating the baseball season, and that is valuing every category individually the same. I know Sabermetrics does it a whole different way, and they've come up with different categories to quantify. They don't like traditional. They don't like wins. They don't like certain categories. Well, I seem to do, and I would have Kluber. That was 4 days ago. I haven't looked at it lately, but that's who I had. Sale was in the mix. There's constant. Right now, it's so even that anyone can win it in the next five starts or so.
So with the National League, Jake Arrieta just won his NL leading 16th game last night. He's got 16 W's now. Is he your NL Cy Young Award winner right now?
He would take over Bumgarner. I had Bumgarner number one. Arrieta was 2. 3, what did I have? I know Lester was 4th or 5th. He's climbing. Here's the interesting thing. Watching this race in particular, because Kershaw's been on the DL, Kershaw would have won it. Watching this particular race is interesting because it's going to come down to maybe a couple unfair scenarios, meaning the Cubs are competing for 2 different awards, MVP and their position players, and Cy Young with the majority of their pitchers, although Colorado hurt a couple of their chances. So Arrieta and Lester will be given the opportunity to compete for the Cy Young, let's say, but they're going to have this thing wrapped up. They're going to rest them. It's going to hurt their chances. So somebody else can come in like a Bumgarner, Cueto, those guys. It was Strasburg's, unfortunately, injury and a couple blow-up games hurt him. So you've got some guys, a lot of guys in the mix that are going to compete for this. It's going to be interesting to watch how Joe Madden, I asked him that question, how are you going to handle it? He goes, oh, boy, we'll see. The playoffs are what they want to get to the World Series.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they got their 80th win last night, their first to 80 wins. I'm with John Smoltz here on the Rich Eisen Show. But you touched upon the story that few people are really talking about nationally, and that's the Dodgers, who knocked Bumgarner around last night. Without Kershaw, they have now taken a 2-game lead over the Giants, who were running away with this thing at the All-Star break. I mean, what have the Dodgers done to turn this thing around without their ace, without their MVP, John?
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to parallel it with the subject that I've been talking about all morning, and that's injuries and youth injuries and pitching. What they've done is a trend they can't sustain. But they've done it, right? They've had so many injuries, and pitching in the big leagues has so many DL stints. It's taken 28 to 32 to 33 pitchers per roster to get through a season. That's unsustainable. But what they've done is acquired enough depth, and they've utilized the bullpen in a way where everybody now analytically and sabermetrics says that's what you should be doing, by the way. So they're getting away with it now. Watch the long-term effect. They've done a nice job balancing the appearances with the minor league option guys. That's another thing that baseball is going to have to deal with, the up and down, up and down, up and down. They have not had the stability of health. When their number one guy, Kershaw, goes down, everyone was said, well, that's it. Now, intuitively, their offense knew they needed to score more. The bullpen knew they had to pick up more slack. We'll see if they can maintain this down the road. But I'm telling you, Rich, this is a problem at the big league level that has started at the lower level in youth sports that will not change and will hit a wall if we don't proactively go after what is causing most of this. We have so much evidence. We are not doing enough about it. And the youth sports are creating this imbalance of injuries with Tommy John surgeries way too early. And the big leagues, quite frankly, again, year-to-year sustainability, it is not possible. I said 4 years ago this was coming. We all focused on the Tommy Johns and the starters, and we all saw that coming, but we never saw what's coming with the bullpen guys and the ways they're going down and the rate to which they aren't going to have a 5 to 10-year career. So the Dodgers, yes, they're doing it. Credit them for acquiring enough depth, but I really believe in long-term of this year moving forward, if they can sustain that throughout the year, then credit them, but it's not sustainable long term. They can be outliers, and there can be changes that are made, but you're seeing the great run that the Kansas City Royals went on, and you're seeing one by one, each one of those guys has suffered setbacks because they can't carry that load of innings.
Yeah, and yet here they have 9 straight wins. They're back in the mix in the American League right now. And just one more question on the current sport before we do get a little bit deeper into what you're talking about with the Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center is, who's the front runner in the American League? Who do you think has the best chance to maybe meet Chicago if they do get all the way through in the National League? In the World Series with 6 weeks to go.
It's so difficult, and that every team in the American League that is at the elite level, meaning that are in the playoff hunt, they all have the same issues. They all have enough strengths, but they all have weaknesses. And I think the team that could come out, possibly with, if all things considered, get healthy, everyone gets healthy. The Boston Red Sox have some scary scenarios. They got a scary offense. Their pitchers are starting to get better, and their bullpen, if it gets healthy, could be right there with most people. So when I look at Texas, Cleveland, and Boston, when I look at those 3 areas, the only thing that concerns me about Cleveland is the fact that as good as they were pitching, now they're starting to show cracks. Salazar has not returned back to where he needed to be. But you're talking about a balance that's so much better in the American League, universally, throughout the whole league, where the National League has been more of the haves and have-nots. It's making up for some great series. And as you know, baseball is not set up for 162 being the reason why you can win 11 games in the postseason.
So let's get to this now, John, about what you're talking about with kids and how they can stay healthy, or pitchers who get older, how they can stay healthy. I'm watching the Little League World Series, and I can't help but think that these kids shouldn't be throwing the speed that they're throwing and sometimes snapping off what they're snapping off, John. What is the answer for a parent out there with a youngster thinking about a long-term viability of an arm here?
Well, believe it or not, the answers have been there all along. They're choosing not to pay attention to it. When I look at all the different organizations that are set up to promote youth baseball, it's mind-boggling. You can't get through it. There are so many showcase games. There are so many leagues that are promoting year-round baseball, not as each entity is doing. It's just you add them all up, it's year-round baseball. And kids and parents are all getting their quest to be a Major League Baseball player, but they're trying to pick a sport. These entities are asking kids to pick a sport at 9, 10, and 11. So when you see the Little League World Series, the first thing that comes to my mind is it would think just by sheer numbers, all right, these are the elite, right? These are the best kids that we have in the country. I do not remember many Major League pitchers that ever pitched in the Little League World Series. Now, that's not a precursor to saying you got to make the big leagues. But if these are the best, why aren't they translating long-term into Major League careers? You're seeing position players that have flourished through the Little League World Series and made it. Now, grant you, there's less than 1% of all baseball players ever make it to the big league, so it's very skewed at best. But play that forward. If they're playing Little League baseball and they're pitching at this level and at the highest level and they're snapping breaking balls and curveballs, they're going to do this 10 times forward because kids can't hit these pitches. If they can't hit them, they're going to keep throwing them. And if they keep throwing them, they're going to have success. And what do? We love success. And parents get enthralled with it, so they go more is better. And the next thing you know, they're increasing their odds of injuries. They're increasing their odds of surgeries. Dr. Andrews Institute has always been out in front with the information. He said, and other doctors alike have said, I don't like doing these surgeries. It's a curse, kind of, because the surgery has shown success, but it's not at the rate that people think. There are so many myths on Tommy John surgeries that people think, they'll be better, they'll throw harder, they'll be like this guy, they'll be like that guy. No, it's not even close. They'll return closer to the level they once were at. So if you're 13, you got a chance to get back to pretty good 13-year-old baseball. So it's an epidemic, and it has taken us by storm to realize that parents have the opportunity and the keys to slow this down. But the organizations that are out there, the 50, the 100 of them, they've done a great job making money and promoting this. And so there'll be a tournament in Jupiter where 1,000 kids from all over the country are going to come down and play. There's all kinds of showcase games, and I'm telling you, it's only going to keep getting worse if we don't find a way to slow it down.
AndrewsSM.com/baseball injury prevention to learn more. John, thanks for the time. I appreciate it. We'll have you back on shortly.
All right, thanks again.
You got it. That's John Smoltz.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.